Yeah, kid. Welcome everybody back to another episode of the Handsome Homebuyer podcast. It's a new year, new me. I'm fucking pumped up, ready to go. A lot of things happening. This is going to be a big year, a transitional year. Captain Permit for the Handsome Homebuyer. Let me tell you what we got going on. First and foremost, if you need permits and you need them, let me tell you, I had lunch with a guy the other day, wants to flip. I said, listen, I'll sit down with you for an hour. Let's talk about it. I'll help you out. No problem. He's like, I'm doing a house in Levittown. I said, you really need permits? He's like, nah, no, I don't. I said, okay, don't listen to me. I never wanted to listen to anybody back in the day either when everyone was telling me I need permits. Yesterday, he texted me, how long will it take to get permits in Levittown? I was like, does that mean you got busted? Hell yeah, that means I got busted. Shout out to the guys out in town of Hempstead. I love you guys. Keep shutting everybody down. 516-513-8838, Captain Permit. We got you coast to coast, from the Queens-Long Island border out to Montauk and everything in between. Whatever you need in the permit world, drafting world, etc., we got it. Captain P. All right, as far as houses that smell like cat pee, or more importantly these days, commercial properties, we burn the boats, remember? We are burning the boats. We're going hardcore, all in, big commercial properties. That means mixed use, self-storage, land for development. You name it, we do it. Strip malls, big multifamily, right? We're not just the house flipping guys anymore. 516-777-SOLD. I'm going to bring hustle to Long Island's commercial real estate like they have never seen. I'm bringing New York City hustle to Long Island's commercial real estate scene. So everybody watch out. 516-777-SOLD. All right. So today's guest, I've had some guests in the past where they have like Barry White-esque kind of voices. And I always say to them, like, listen, like, if this real estate stuff doesn't work out for you, you have a, who did I have? I don't remember. You have a career in the 1-900 number business. Today is not going to be that case, ladies and gentlemen. Today you are going to listen to two nasally Jewish men. And I have to apologize for that up front, but I promise will be very entertaining and you will definitely learn quite a bit. All right, so today's guest is a very good friend, very smart attorney. I felt it was important to bring an attorney on the show that had a tremendous amount of experience both with distressed product and regular retail product, estates, etc. Please welcome Dustin Cohen.
Thanks for having me.
Good to have you, man.
I'm going to do the best not to have my Jewish nasally voice.
It's unavoidable.
Yeah, no.
Listen, as Jewish people, we have we can't have everything.
We can only go up from here.
I mean, you're in good shape. But like, you ever go to like the Matzah Bowl? You know what the Matzah Bowl is, right? Mm-hmm. We discussed this before.
Yeah.
I mean, we're typically short, hairless in places that we want to have hair, hairy in places that we don't, and a little portly around the midsection. So you're good. You actually defy all of that.
Well, both of us are working on it.
Well, no, I don't have hair, bro.
Well, you don't have hair.
I'm not portly.
Yeah.
No, but I work hard. I work hard for that.
So do I. We're getting older. Things are moving.
So as we were talking off air, I feel like lawyers are very underappreciated, and that they are kind of like it's like a thankless job.
It is,
right? So I want to give some love to you guys, because if things go really well, you don't get like a thank you. It's just like business as usual. But when shit hits the fan, which is like probably, would you say 90% of the deals that you currently deal with? 85%.
I don't know if I would go that. It depends. If you're doing a regular retail deal,
I'm not saying it's not through any fault of your own.
Yeah, stuff happens all the time.
I'm going to say 85%.
Fine.
80, unless you and I are working on a deal together, I was going to say 85% of the deals, and everyone just like it's always your fault or whatever, even though it's really not your fault.
Agreed.
It's just the nature of what we do. It's like the permit world. Like, people are just angry about the permit shit. It's like, listen, I'll come out to your house tomorrow. I'll measure. We'll get everything in a week or less. But when the town decides to just object for no reason and torture us and torture you because that's what they do, it's just the process. It's just what we deal with.
It is. Well, that's what they're paying. That's what they're allegedly paying us for, is for us to come in to make sure that everything is right, that you have COs, that taxes are paid, that everything is done correctly. So when the shit hits the fan, they come back to us. It's just, unfortunately, the nature of the beast.
So I want to make everybody very clear of this. There's a tremendous amount of attorneys in the world. All attorneys are not created equal, and you need to have a specific attorney for what it is that you're doing, right? So, like, an example with medicine, like if you if you had a heart problem and you needed heart surgery, you wouldn't go to your dentist who's a doctor because he does a kick-ass job on your teeth. This is the same thing in real estate. I want to make everybody very clear about this, because as an investor right? This has been a problem for me in the past, and just as I'm sure realtors have this problem. If you are a new investor, or if you are a homeowner, or whatever it is, or you're going to buy a house, you don't want your divorce attorney doing your real estate closings. You don't. And especially if you're a flipper or a real estate investor, it is a very, very niche thing, and all kinds of crazy shit happens, which we're going to talk about when you're dealing with short sales, foreclosures, just all kinds of distressed properties, estates, etc., which is stuff that Dustin has intimate experience and knowledge on. You want somebody who has a tremendous amount of experience with this. In my opinion, two best attorneys out there, Dustin, who's sitting in front of me, and my attorney, Brian Melnick. All right? These are two great guys. I'll include their information in all the social media that we put out so you can reach out to them, talk to them, see, these are the people that you want to work with. So before we, I always like to kind of get into like the where did you come from thing. So like why law? Where did it come from? Why law? I mean, from what I understand, you come from a law pedigree, a pretty distinguished law pedigree.
I was always going to be a lawyer. I had no idea what I was going to do. So my father is a lawyer, and growing up, I was watching him do his thing, and he was like Perry Mason. He does litigation, and I'd visit him in court and go to his office, and it was like the greatest thing in the world to me. So when I graduated college, I always knew that I was going to law school. I had no idea what I was going to do, but I figured, I didn't really have... At what point
did you know you were going to be a lawyer?
I felt like I was going to be a lawyer from the time I was 5 or 6 years old. Like I just always thought that this is what I was going to do. There was never any question about doing anything else. So when I went to college, I majored in criminal justice and poli-sci because I knew this is where I was going. So once I went into law school and I started trying to get an idea of what exactly I should be doing, I started to get into the world of elder law and estate planning. Because
did you work for a big firm first before you went out on your own, and that's when you started doing that?
My first job was with a boutique law firm in Great Neck. There was probably, I think, 4 or 5 attorneys there, and they majorly did estate planning, elder law, estate administration, and some real estate transactions. So that's basically how I started doing real estate. I was administering estates for people that had passed away, and they had houses. So I said, maybe this is a good transition. Maybe I should start doing real estate transactions. So I started doing real estate transactions probably around 2010. And then from there, I moved on to a larger firm in Garden City. I was there for about 4 years, and that firm closed. They closed their Garden City office somewhat abruptly in 2017. So at that point, I much again, to move out of my comfort zone, I took the leap and went out on my own in May of 2017, and here I am.
Okay, so basically for a year and a half, 2 years, you've been exclusive on your own, doing primarily estate work and a ton of real estate. And I know firsthand, because you and I have been in the trenches together, that you've experienced and handled the worst of the worst of the worst, dirtiest possible real estate transactions. Like, investors out there, I want you to understand. My 2 boys, Dustin and Brian, have seen the worst. Like, there's nothing, if you're going to buy anything, right, 1 to 4 family, there is nothing that these guys haven't seen. Agents, same kind of thing. If you need someone to really hold your client's hand, you need someone with a good bedside manner, you need people to get back to you. I mean, these are the guys that you want. It's like 24/7. Sorry, dude. Your wife's gonna hate me. Your wife's gonna hate me for this. It's like 24/7 access. Like, although they're very busy, you feel like you have like your own, personal private attorney, which is cool. So let's I guess I want to talk about the crazy stuff that you see that you have to deal with on the investing front. Like, I guess suggestions to the flippers, like guys that are just getting into the game, or even guys that have been in the game for a little while, because I think crazy stuff goes on. Like, every day I learn something. Every day something pops up and I'm like, what the hell is this? What are your suggestions for when flippers are getting into the game about going out and interviewing attorneys, things you feel that they should know, etc.?
Sure. So the number one thing that I would say is you need to sit down with your attorney and interview them, go through, what your expectations are. A lot of attorneys, have tons of staff, and you're not necessarily going to be dealing with them on a regular basis. And particularly if you're going to be a flipper and you're going to be dealing with your attorney most likely daily, you need to really like the person on a personal level. Aside from the fact that you want that person to have the legal knowledge and know what they're doing, you need to like them because you're going to be dealing with them all the time. So it's very important. On the, particularly with flippers, what a lot of people that I've seen that start getting into it don't necessarily understand is that when you're buying a distressed property, okay, a lot of people look at it, in its simplest form, that you're going to be paying $150,000 for this house. That's how much you're going to spend to purchase that house, okay? Very often when you're purchasing distressed property, there's other things that have to be paid for at that closing, okay? Number one, if the person is in foreclosure, okay, and they're still selling it as a short sale, they most likely have other warts, meaning they might have judgments against them. They might have other liens against them. There might be violations against the property that the purchaser is going to have to take subject to, or depending on the type of violation, if it can be satisfied by a payment of monies at the closing, that they're going to have to pay at the closing. So remember the first flipper that I dealt with, it was like his second deal. And when I was explaining to him before, we're going over the numbers the day before the closing, and I think he was paying like $170 for the house. And I was saying, okay, well, your all-in number, after everything, you're going to pay for title, you're going to purchase title insurance for yourself, okay, you're going to pay to record the deed and all the recording charges to the county, and the seller has a judgment from Capital One for $7,500. That needs to be paid off because I want you to get clear title when we close, okay? Because one way or another, whether he took an accept in his policy and then had to sell it, and when he goes to sell the property, he's going to have to pay it at that point. So, if I can, I like to have everybody pay as much up front so that they have a clear policy. When they go to sell, they don't have to deal with any of this other nonsense. The other thing, to your point, okay, particularly on Long Island, is if you have the ability, go down to the building department. Send Charles and his guys down to the building department and see what is on file with the building department with regard to COs.
This is a huge freaking problem.
It is a huge problem.
And here's the thing. I mean, for the amount of work that attorneys do, and I got to thank Brian for this, like, to deal with all this bullshit, for what you guys charge, the bullshit threshold can't be that crazy. Because otherwise, it's not worth it. You're basically working for like $3 an hour.
It's not. It's funny. Somewhat recently, someone decided what attorneys should get paid. Back in the day, like back in the late 70s and the early 80s, a typical legal fee was 1% of the purchase price.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yes. Obviously, way before I was practicing, and somehow that changed. I don't know when.
Wow. Was that a nationwide thing? Did it change just here?
I think for New York State, I mean, I just know from talking to people, like people in my dad's generation that practice, that's what it was.
Wow.
Okay, so even if you were buying a $100,000 house in 1980, you were getting $1,000. The lawyer was getting $1,000, and then you have people today that charge less than that.
Wow.
So if you think about it,
listen, people, I want to make this abundantly clear. There's certain things you shop for. If you're going to buy a stapler, you go online, right? You could buy it from Staples, from Office Max. It's the same goddamn stapler. Services are not the same. It's not. You don't get discount legal, because when you get discount legal, it costs you a shit ton of money. If you have a guy who's going to do your closing for $850, but he's not going to show up because he's going to pay some he's going to pay some guy to step in $200 and he's going to collect a VIG and he wants to run a factory, that is not what you want. You don't shop for an attorney. Another thing that drives me nuts, buyers that use these union attorneys, it's a freaking nightmare.
Well, the thing is with those union attorneys is that they're only allowed to charge a certain amount of money to the union, and they're usually overworked. So anytime I have a deal with a union attorney, and this is not to denigrate the work that they're doing, because they're working really hard, and that's the problem, is that they have to handle, say 30 transactions in a month, 40 transactions in a month, and they're not getting paid commensurate with the normal legal fee, so they don't have the time to contribute to the clients that I do, just because, I'm able to charge a little bit more because I'm not regulated by anybody. So, it kind of is what it is, and you do get what you pay for. Look, I try to the best of my ability to be available all the time. If a client needs something and they call me on a Sunday, listen, my wife isn't particularly happy about it, but sometimes I have to take the phone call. If I'm, up late, working on a file for the next day, it kind of is what it is. If I get an email and I'm, laying in bed scrolling through my phone at night and I get an email, I usually answer it, and there is truth to you get what you pay for. I try and be as accessible to my clients as possible. You call, you get me. It's and it really there's truth to that in a lot of different industries, but particularly in this, because the spread that you're going to get on a legal fee, if one guy says he'll charge you $1,100 and another guy says he's going to charge you $1,300, you're buying or selling a house or a piece of property for ostensibly $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, $700,000, and you're quibbling over $200,000.
It just it's crazy.
It doesn't make sense to me either, but it is what it is.
I want to talk about title companies and things surrounding title companies. So a couple different points. How important is it to have an attorney who has a good relationship with a title company and just trust that they know what they're doing and let them run with that ball, versus trying to get your own title company, which I see a lot of people at these networking events. They're title companies and they're like, oh, use me. And then what does title specifically cover? I think a lot of people don't understand, especially in regards to permits. Mm-hmm. And then certain things like judgments and whatnot, with the town comes and fills in a pool at certain times and it doesn't show up in the title report, who's responsible or not. Like, this is stuff that investors really need to know about. Yeah.
So so to your first point, title insurance is one of the most important things. Like it's an insurance policy like anything else. You have health insurance, you have car insurance. When you purchase a piece of property, you are buying title insurance, okay? Title insurance, the title insurance company, okay, and their underwriter are ensuring that the purchaser of that property is the rightful owner to that property, okay? And as part and parcel with that, when you go into contract to purchase a property, you order a title report, okay? That title report, among other things, is going to tell you who actually owns the property, okay? So someone is visiting the county clerk's office or going online, depending on what county it is, to determine whose name is on the last deed of record. Does the person that's listed as a seller on that contract actually own that piece of property?
Believe it or not, this is really important when you're dealing with distressed stuff, guys.
Yes.
Crazy shit happens. People try to, especially in the boroughs,
mm-hmm.
people try to sell stuff that they don't own.
Yes. I've seen deeds getting flipped, people signing fraudulent deeds. I had a person call me a couple of weeks ago that said that she thought she was refinancing her property. Okay? Some guy came to her house. She signed a bunch of documents. She had no idea what she was signing. And then P.S., she signed a deed and transfer documents. So she gave her property to some guy. She doesn't even know who it is. Things like this happen. This
was not Long Island, right?
No, this was in the city. This was in the city. But it could easily happen here too.
Yeah, no, I know.
You have people that do a lot of unscrupulous things. So when you get your title report is going to tell you who owns the property, okay? It's going to tell you if there are any liens or judgments against the property, in addition to looking at the parties. So it's going to tell you, does that seller have any judgments against him or her? Because if that seller has any judgments, those judgments attach to any property that seller owns. So back to my example before of the person that had a judgment from Capital One. That had to be satisfied at the closing in order for the title company to say, you have free and clear title to this property. Okay? Additionally, it also searches for municipals such as COs, okay? Emergency violations, okay? Water and sewer, okay? Fire department violations, bankruptcy searches, okay? If you filed a bankruptcy, until that bankruptcy is closed, you cannot convey clear title, okay? All of these things the title company searches for, okay? One other thing, permits, COs. A lot of people are under the misinformation that the title company is giving you insurance on COs, okay? If you ever look at a title report, they always say these are provided for information only, okay? COs are not insured. The title company does not care about them because they are not giving you insurance that those COs are in place. Your bank, depending on if the purchaser is getting conventional financing, the bank most likely will care if there are COs on the house, okay? And that, depends on the bank. 15 years ago, you could buy a house with no COs and nobody cared, okay? But today, particularly after the crash, from 07, 08, the banks are way more careful about lending money against a house without COs, because in their mind, if they have to ultimately take that house back, they don't want to deal with the headache of having to get the COs.
Yeah, I mean, in addition, also, attorneys like yourself are a lot tougher on these things now, because they realize that the towns are out there hunting for money, and then if you're trying to protect your client, ultimately your client could get stuck paying thousands of dollars in fees associated with legalizing something.
Absolutely,
it can get really crazy.
Absolutely, particularly, like I met with a client last night. She's purchasing a house in Sayville. House is totally original. Nothing has ever been done, but this is monstrous deck on the back of the house. No CO. So I have to explain to her. And the first-time home buyers, they don't know. They see a beautiful, nice new Trex deck in the backyard that probably costs $15 or $20 grand, and they're super psyched about it. The fact of the matter is that I know that there's no CO. If their bank is going to allow them to close, they just need to understand that at some point, if the building department becomes aware that there's a deck back there, then they'll most likely start getting violations. Okay, they may have to legalize it. If they ever go to do any additional work at that house, whereby they do the right thing and go get a building permit, they're going to have to legalize that deck anyway.
Boom. I mean, huge point, because again, this goes back to attorneys not being created equal. Like at Captain Permit, we get calls all the time from people who are like, I bought this house, my attorney never told me. I was like, back to my original point. You get what you pay for. Not all attorneys are created equal. Not all attorneys review these things, the violations, the title reports, et cetera, et cetera. Part because back in the day it wasn't a big deal, but part because they're just like, they're not charging enough. They're overworked. They have to do more volume in order to make up for it, especially if they're a discounted attorney like what are those union attorneys, right? So like it's tough. You get what you pay for. Another thing with like two more things with the title that I kind of want to go over. So just for my own even personal knowledge. So the title company basically ensures that the person you're buying it from was the actual owner, right? And that the parcel you have within like those boundaries is actually yours. Is yours.
If you have a survey, okay? A lot of people don't get surveys. Flippers never get surveys, okay? So for yourself, if you purchase a house, okay, if you purchase a house as an REO or you purchase it as a short sale, okay, you're most likely not purchasing a survey from your title, having your title company obtain a survey for you, okay, so that they can look at the lot lines, okay, so they can see that, the fence at the rear of the property is 3 feet inside the property line, or that, that there was a covenant in the town that said that the setback has to be 25 feet and the house is really 23 feet from the property line or something like that. You're not going to necessarily know that because you didn't get a survey, okay? I typically recommend that my clients either purchase a new survey, or if the seller has a survey, okay, and the title company is willing to use it, okay, that they use it, just because you don't necessarily know. It's like if you're buying a, what you think is a 100 by 100 lot, okay, and you don't have a survey and it turns out that the neighbor's fence is, 3 feet inside and that they have a shed that's encroaching onto your property by 4 feet, okay, you're purchasing subject to that. So if that neighbor, okay, and you ever have an argument, he says, oh, the shed's on my property, you can't tell him, number one, that it's not, okay, number two, and that if he ever started an action, okay, it's called a bar claim action, okay, to have a declaratory judgment from the court that says that this is his property, you're not going to be indemnified by the title company.
And so the title company's not going to cover it, A, and then B, depending on how long it's been like that, he can actually have a real claim. I forgot what it's called.
Adverse possession.
There we go, adverse possession.
And it's a real thing. Like, does it come up often? Not particularly, but the big thing on Long Island, everyone has a fence. Everyone has a fence, okay? When I bought my house, the fence was off, okay? There's a bunch of different ways. I know that you and I have talked about this, about how to remedy those situations so that you can get a clean title policy, okay? A lot of people will do something that's called a boundary line agreement, okay, which will be signed by both landowners, and it'll actually be recorded in the county clerk's office, and that puts the world on notice that the neighbor is saying, I know that my fence is over, but I recognize that this is your property.
And I'm not going to try and take it from you.
Exactly.
Perfect.
And what that does is that allows the title company to give you affirmative insurance on the whole piece of property. Okay? So it's, it could become an issue. And you you really have to be careful. When you get a survey, you really need to read it very carefully. The title company will typically give you something that's called a survey inspection, okay, which basically says, survey shows a one-story house with a detached garage, an in-ground pool. The fence, on the northeast side is, 3 feet inside of the property line. There may be an out of possession with regard to that property line, okay, which is a problem. Anything in New York of less than 12 inches, okay, deviation from the property line is considered de minimis, and they don't care about it, and it's okay.
So if it's under a foot, so if the fence is 6 inches on, they're okay with that?
Yes.
If it's 3 feet, it's a problem.
It's a problem. Exactly. And you really have to be careful, and you need to review your survey, okay, and then see, and compare that with the COs to see, if everything is legal. If you have a CO for a one-family house and you tell me there's a detached garage in the backyard and an in-ground pool, then obviously a red flag goes up. Okay, they don't have a CO for that pool, and they don't have a CO for that garage.
No, man. I want to talk about, this has happened to me, and sometimes there's nothing you can do about it, but I want people to be aware of it from a legal standpoint. If I'm under contract to buy a house that doesn't have, the pool was filled in, and it happened a month ago, and I go into contract and I close 30 days later, and then all of a sudden, like 4 months down the road or 6 months down the road, I go to sell the house, and I get a bill from the town of Hempstead for $10,000 to fill in that pool. Like, who's responsible for that? Is there? Why does that happen? Just kind of explain that to people.
So you bought a house. So
this is a true story, by the way.
So you purchased a house.
I buy a house that the pool is filled in, right?
Okay.
There's nothing on the taxes showing. There's nothing, like, as it could have been filled in 100 years ago. I don't know, right? I buy the house, we renovate the house, we go to sell it. All of a sudden, this thing comes up in the title saying that there's a bill for the town of Hempstead for $10,352 to fill in a pool.
Mm-hmm. And when you purchased the house, was there a CO for a pool?
You know what? I don't know. This was a long time ago. This is probably like the third deal I ever did, right? So this is like 5 years ago. So I don't remember if it didn't get looked at or what the deal was. But the same thing can kind of hold true for cleanups, board ups, things like that. Like, you buy a house that's boarded up, you don't know when it was boarded up. You don't know if they'd cut the lawn recently. So kind of explain to people how that plays out.
Well, what happens is the town, if the house isn't taken care of, okay, and the town has to do a board up to prevent, rats and stuff from going inside the house, or if they go by and they cut the grass.
By rats, he means people.
Yes. Well, both. I'm sure you've seen both. I know. But what the towns typically do is they'll typically send a bill to the homeowner, but the homeowner's not there. So what they'll do is they'll just add it. Typically, they'll add it into the real estate taxes, and it'll say on your tax bill. Okay, it'll say in your tax search, and when you get your title report, it'll say this includes $100, $150 for 1 week of lawn maintenance, or they'll put their board up fee in the taxes, so they know that they're going to get paid one way or another. Yeah. But it kind of is what it is. If you're purchasing the house, if the taxes are already paid by the bank, then you're all good. But if not, you're gonna have to eat that fee.
Exactly. That's the thing people have to understand. So sometimes, you get lucky, you get away with it, but you need somebody looking at it. It always blows my mind how, like, investors don't ever review their title policies, ever. They don't review the title policies, they don't review the munis, and the attorneys aren't looking. They're half asleep at the wheel, and then all of a sudden you deal with these problems. And especially in today's market, the margins are so slim, you don't have the luxury of throwing away $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, in my case, once upon a time, $10,000. And the guy that I bought it from isn't responsible. I went back to him. He was nice enough to give me $5,000, believe it or not. So I got a little bit lucky, but it's not their responsibility.
No.
It's not this. You're stuck with this. And this is why you need an attorney who's competent, who understands these things, who can check this stuff out. Another thing I want to talk about are loan documents, specifically like hard money loan documents. This is, in my opinion, something that's like super overlooked. I would say 99.9% of investors are borrowing private money. A lot of them are going to these like hard money companies where they're lending you 90% of the purchase price, 100% of the reno. There's like all kinds of step-ups for time. Like, these things are elaborate docs. I know everyone just like wants to flip a house and wants the money, but like, you can't send, again, your divorce attorney in to review hard money loan docs. These things are constructed by hedge funds, big financial institutions who want to make money. Like, you need somebody who understands what happens here. Can you kind of give some kind of feedback about like pitfalls, things to look out for, what you see horrifyingly and commonly?
A lot. Not all loan docs are created equal, and what people don't understand is when you're getting a hard money loan, it is not like you are getting a loan from Bank of America or Wells Fargo. Okay, those institutions use the same loan docs for every deal. They just have templates. They add in the name, the mortgage amount, and the rate, and that's pretty much it. Okay, but when you're dealing with hard money lenders, you need to read those loan docs very carefully. There are a lot of things in mortgage documents for hard money loans that are not in typical loan documents. Okay, a lot of things you need to look at. What is your rate? Okay, do you have an exit fee? How long is your term? Okay, other things you need to look for is how many points are you paying up front? Okay, a lot of times people don't realize, like, oh, I'm getting a $150,000 loan and I'm going to get $150,000 to use, and that's not how it works. A lot of hard money lenders will charge you 1 or 2 points, and a point is a percentage of your purchase, 1% of your purchase price. They'll charge you that up front. Okay, a lot of lenders will also charge you extension fees. So on a typical hard money loan, if you get a loan for a year and at say 10%, that's all well and good. But if you haven't sold that house yet, I don't know if this has ever happened to you or if your loan docs provide for these things. But a lot of the ones that I've seen are that if you want to extend your loan for an additional 3 months, 6 months, 8 months, whatever it is, they're going to charge you additional for that. So they might charge you a point extension for 6 months or something like that. A lot of them also have what's called an exit fee, okay, which is basically similar to paying a point to extend. You may pay a point or may pay 2 points when you sell. So before they will give you a mortgage satisfaction, you will pay them a point at the closing. Okay, so there's a lot of other costs that are involved.
Sometimes the rates change also. Sometimes after a certain period of time, all of a sudden your rate goes from 10% to 20% to 15%. You don't know. There's a lot of things. Also, there's lender legal fees. There's all kinds of little fees that these guys put in there that a competent attorney is going to see and say, we're not paying for this. Well, this is what you have to pay for. Are you okay with that? Beforehand, because listen, these guys are all in the hard money world. These guys are all competing for your business, right? There's a lot more of them than there are of us, and they want to lend money. There's a lot more money out there than quality vehicles to put it in. I get calls and emails every week of guys saying, "I want to give you money. I want to give you money. I want to give you money." Right? For a first-time flipper, that might be a crazy thing. Like, what do you mean, guys just call you and want to give you money? Think about it. We all need each other. Once you have a reputation, there's going to be a lot of people that want to put money with you. So you can afford to be picky, and you can afford to say in certain cases, like, yo, I'm not paying for this because it's ridiculous. Like, if you see a $3,000 lender legal fee on the buy and then a $1,500 SAT fee on the exit, if Dustin sees that, he's going to say to you, yo, this is fucking nuts, and we're going to call this guy and say we're not doing it, and we're going to get somebody else. Right? But if you don't have anybody who's competent reviewing those docs, you're going to pay for that stuff and not even realize until it's all over.
Well, that's the other thing, is that a lot of people don't realize, because when you get a mortgage, and this goes for a regular conventional mortgage, if you're getting a hard money loan, when you get that loan amount at the closing, all of your fees come off of the top, right? So to the extent that, let's say you get a $150,000 mortgage, they don't give you all of that money to work with at the closing. They're going to take their points off the top. They're going to take their legal fee off the top. They're going to pay interim interest until the end of the month off the top. So you don't get all of that money. So, psychologically, when people aren't actually writing a check, then it doesn't hurt as much. But the fact of the matter is that you're spending that money because it's just coming off the top of your loan, but you're paying interest on that money every month. So it's tough sometimes. For people to understand it, it's a little difficult. But
yeah, I mean, there's different stages also. Like, there's certain guys where, let's say you're borrowing some of the renovation cost, but they still have it and you're getting it in draws. There's some contracts where you might think that you're not paying interest on that money, but you actually are from day one, even though you can't use it. There's others that don't. It really, really depends. That's why you need somebody competent reviewing loan docs. This is a very big thing. I myself have had issues with this. It's just there's so much going on that you need somebody who has your best interest in mind who's going to be reviewing these things. I want to talk about realtors for a minute, right? And just kind of suggestions and things for agents from a lawyer's perspective on, how they can help transactions become smoother and just get to the closing table faster with less drama, make your life easier, which ultimately makes their life easier, which ultimately makes their client happier, whether they're buying or selling.
Mm-hmm. One of the first things, a lot of the lawyers and realtors don't always get along, okay? I try and work with the realtors because a lot of times they can assist me with things that I need. If I need something from the building, if I need to see what COs are on file, and they can go down to the building department, or there's an issue at the house and they need to go for another walkthrough, or a contractor needs to get into the house. The realtors are extremely helpful. One of the things that a lot of realtors don't do is they don't properly pre-qualify their clients. Okay, I've had this happen. I had this happen last year with a realtor I was working with, where she showed a woman, I think, 35 houses. Okay, she had a pre-qualification letter from some bank that she's never heard of. She didn't call the loan officer, okay? And she didn't even contact anyone at the bank. So she finally finds this woman a house, okay? She comes to my office to sign the contract. We do the whole thing. We order title. Turns out that this woman didn't make nearly as much money as she claimed. The pre-qualification letter she had was from her cousin through somebody else, through a friend of a friend of a friend, okay? So all of us, including that realtor, wasted months and hours of time. Okay, nobody makes money, okay, on dead deals. So the whole point is, take the time, okay, call up the loan officer, okay, get a feel. Does the person have adequate income? Is their debt to income ratio, within the acceptable parameters? Additionally, I don't really know any realtors that do this, but if they have the ability, go down to the building department, see what's on file. Are there open permits on this house? Is there a deck that was never legalized? Is there a dormer on the back that nobody's ever legalized? And those things are all going to come up at some point. So if you can attack them first, and maybe they can get permits, and if the seller is willing to, then we can all save ourselves some time. But a lot of times they just want to get to the closing because that's when everyone gets paid. So they want to get into contract, they want to go close. But there's so much that goes on in between. Title has to be clear. The borrower has to obtain a mortgage commitment. Then the borrower's loan has to be cleared. There's so many things and so many ways for the deals to die that it really, when you have a good realtor on your side, it really does make all the difference.
And this is kind of like my recent beef with agents. I think agents have this kind of, not all agents, but I think a lot of agents have this thing where they're like, oh, I found the house. I passed it off to the attorney. My job is done. I'm going to wait to get paid. And that's not the case. To Dustin's original point, you have to really have a team of people, which includes an attorney, home inspector, captain permit, whoever, right, who you're going to refer people to, right? Have a good relationship with the attorney. Physically like him or her as people in addition to their ability to practice law. Because you guys are a team and everybody's trying to get this thing to close, because if it doesn't close, nobody gets paid. Everyone's basically working for free until that happens. So you can't just dump it off on the guy and then disappear. Like, I put a bunch of houses on the market in the last couple of weeks. I got accepted offers on a half a dozen houses. All of a sudden, contracts go out. All of a sudden, the seller's not getting back to the attorney's not getting back to us. We can't even get a hold of the agent. We get a hold of the agent like 10 days later. We're like, what's going on with your buyer? They're like, what are you talking about? I thought this deal was done. They have no idea what is going on. You literally have to hold these people's hand to make sure. Call the attorney. When are they coming in? Don't be belligerent and crazy, but find out, when's the client coming in? What are the issues? Is there a rider? Let me work with the other agent to resolve the rider issues before it gets to the attorney so he doesn't have to go back and forth. The attorney doesn't have the same amount of time, right? Make sure this stuff is easy because it helps you make money. Now realtors will be like, well, that's the attorney's job. I don't want to do the attorney's job. No, it's everybody's job to get this thing to close. The homeowner wants the house. I want to sell my house and make money. Dustin wants to make money to do the closing and providing great service. And you want to get paid a commission for working with somebody for, who knows, 6 months, 2 months, a year, 2 years, showing them 5 houses, 10 houses, 50 houses. Right?
Agreed.
Damn. What else?
That was good.
You just, yeah, man.
Yeah.
That was like, you know what? Sorry, realtors. I've been upset about this for like the last 2 weeks because this shit keeps going on, and I'm like,
it does.
How does an agent disappear? Like, I had one house in Wheatley Heights. Melnick sent out 5 contracts. We had 8 accepted offers. People did home inspections and disappeared. And not because there was anything wrong with the house. We had the reports. They freaking just disappeared. The agent didn't call back to say what happened. Then sometimes we get a hold of the agent 2 weeks later, and the agent's like, I can't find my own buyer. Like, it's a shit show. It is, and I don't know if that's like indicative of the market, indicative of the time of year right now. I don't know what it is, but like it's just a very, very strange. So like control your people, run your business.
Yeah, you're not getting paid if that deal doesn't get to the closing table. It's just, it's the same thing with me. It's the same thing. Everyone is looking towards a common goal. Okay, everyone wants to get paid. The attorneys want to get paid. The brokers want to get paid. The sellers want to sell. The buyers want to buy. The title company wants to get paid. Everyone is there for a common goal. So if you all work together, you can all get there, and there's always, listen, every, I wouldn't say every deal, but a lot of deals, there's there's things that are going on, there might be out of possession, there might be an open permit that needs to be cleared up. So, a seller might have filed a bankruptcy. There's always stuff. Okay. But, it's everyone's job, the title company's job to assist the attorneys and the realtor's job to assist the parties with getting everything together so that we all get to the closing table.
Actually, listen, I think that's the best place to wrap it up. I don't think we could say anymore. Dustin, you're the man. Thank you for coming out.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for putting in your 10 cents. Listen, everybody, if you need a good attorney, the two attorneys I recommend, Dustin Cohen. Dustin, how can people get in touch with you if they want to use you both? Realtors, I recommend, and direct investors.
Phone numbers 516-526-9050. Email is dustin@dustincohenlaw.com. You can also contact me. My office is at 120 West Old Country Road in Hicksville, and I'm happy to help, buyers, sellers, first-time home buyers, flippers, anybody who has questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to help.
Excellent. My attorney as well, his name is Brian Melnick. Excellent as well. Him and Dustin know each other very well. We've done a ton of deals together. 516-656-3353. And again, if you need permits, listen, everybody needs permits. If you're a flipper, if you're a realtor, if you're a mortgage broker, if you're an attorney, you need the captain. 516-513-8838. If you have houses that smell like cat piss or dated from the 1960s, commercial property, you name it, notes, businesses, anything that requires investment on the real estate front or the business front, call me, 516-777-SOLD. That's a wrap.